They're wild in some ways, actually puritanical in others. Neat as pins, ultra-lawful. They make love at the drop of a hat.
Any hat.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fully Functional, the TNG podcast. I'm Maggie, joined by Jeff and Dory. Just to review, Jeff and I are huge Star Trek nerds. Dory is a Star Trek noob. And we are going to be talking about episode 8, I believe, of Star Trek The Next Generation, the first season, the episode called Justice. Original air date November 7th, 1987. So, we'll start off, as always, with a recap from Dory.
Okay, so the gang has just left from, colonizing a planet. They're traveling out and they're going to go visit this other place called Rubicon 3. Excuse my pronunciations if it's wrong. So they get there and they're like, let's go down. But you know who's most excited? Riker. Riker is losing his mind with excitement.
As is Tasha.
Oh yeah, everybody is ready to party. They are so excited for this trip.
They've already partied this season. Come on, guys.
They can only party once a season, and that's it. So they go down and they meet, we meet the whitest people I have ever seen in my life.
I was hoping you would comment on that because holy crap, the amount of blonde, blue-eyed people in this, I'm just sitting there staring at it like, is this Hitler's planet?
Yeah.
I actually wrote in my notes, this is the most Aryan episode of TV I've ever seen in my life. I mean, the people are they're not Nazis or anything like that, just the very, very white.
Oh, yes. Every one of them is blonde, blue eyes, and in their 20s or 30s.
Oh, yeah. They're also in incredible shape because they're basically wearing the skimpiest rompers known to mankind. And so they meet all these people. They're super affectionate, ready to bone at the drop of a hat. Literally, they say that in the episode. And then Yar's like, any hat. So everybody meets. Wesley gets to come down too. I do have a Wesley corner for later, so we'll get into that after.
Oh, good.
So meanwhile, while the gang is down on the planet, this bubble thing enters the Enterprise, and everybody's like, what is this big ass bubble doing here? It floats basically through the ship until it comes in contact with Data, and Data gets knocked out. And I wrote in my notes, Data's not fully functional at the moment.
Heyo. Dunk.
So it turns out this the bubble comes from this weird half there metal contraption it looks metal to me, technology thing in the sky in which the Edo people think it's God. And then honestly, I found it all kind of confusing. Part of the middle of the episode truly just over my head. Then, oh my God, what happened in the episode?
Wow. Clearly not a great episode if it couldn't even stand out in your mind.
No. I'm just trying to remember because there was just honestly, these people were so distracting. There was so much running around that honestly just exhausted me watching these people run so much.
Yeah, and a lot of penis camel toe.
Yes. Oh my God.
Is there a word for male camel toe? I was trying to think about that, and I'm like, I don't know, dick hoof?
Oh my God. Do you know what? I think there is there is one, but I don't know what it is off the top of my head. I'm sure I've heard something.
That's heartbreaking.
The word hoof actually is what stuck, popped into my head for that. When you said hoof, that sort of reminded me, I think I've heard something about that before.
Well,
it's going to drive me crazy.
That's what we're running with, dick hoof.
Yeah, dick hoof. Oh yeah, so basically, Wesley is playing ball in the most hilarious way possible with 3 other random youths. And they throw the ball and Wesley tries to catch it and he falls into a flower bed in the punishment zone. And the rules there are really weird.
That sounds pretty epic. The punishment zone.
Isn't that what it's called?
Yeah, I believe so.
Am I wrong? Okay. Oh, okay, good. So then their weird thing is any crime that's committed, the punishment is death, no matter what the crime is. So too bad, so sad.
Didn't bother warning anyone about this before they got there.
Yeah. So Wesley's basically being held as like a prisoner, and while like on the ship, Dr. Crusher is like really upset, and Picard is like, but we have to deal with Data right now, and this weird ass god thing that's floating around us. Then they bring up the mermaid looking lady, Revon. This woman is so like, she's gorgeous, but the hair is like Mermaid City or Cher in Moonstruck.
Really, I was gonna say the hair is Mop Top City, because like that hair could clean up a kitchen no problem.
Oh, it looked like spaghetti. It was like Carol. I think Carol Kane had like a thing in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt where she talked about her like spaghetti hair, and it was like really light blonde curly hair, and that's what like popped into my head when I saw this woman was, oh, this lady has spaghetti hair.
Nice.
And it's beautiful. So they bring Revon to the Enterprise, and she's like, holy shit, it's God. And a lot of this is like talking about justice and stuff, and kind of for basically saying that the Edo people, their situation is like almost primitive because, you know, they just kill everybody for anything, and we've evolved, but like, have we?
Have we?
But then basically because like, God forbid anything happens. So, but they are able to get Wesley back, and also, oh my God, the amount of time, if you took a shot every time somebody said Prime Directive in this episode, you would be dead of alcohol poisoning.
They're really trying to hammer down that Prime Directive thing.
And they also don't
explain what it is.
Yeah, they still don't fully explain what the Prime Directive is.
You know it's really important. You know it has to do with something, but they don't say what.
Because they keep saying, like, oh, we're not supposed to interfere with people's customs. But they're like, but let us interfere with people's customs.
Yeah.
So it's, like, understandable in this case because Wesley is a child and he didn't know. And it's funny how, like, the Edo people are just like, we understand this, but also these are our laws, so suck it. Yeah, I found them to be, like, honestly, kind of interesting. But yeah, so then they get Wesley back, and I don't think Riker had as much fun as he wanted to, because he was like so pumped for this trip, and you know, they didn't have a lot of time, not as much time as I think he would have liked.
You don't think Riker got some Riker time in?
No, honestly, I don't think he did. I think they wanted to stay longer, and then he could really have some Riker time. Yeah, they seemed pretty like in drama and then out.
In and out, just the way Riker likes it.
I think this is the most emotions we've seen from him all season.
Oof.
And it's horniness.
Yeah. Also, I realized Riker is a bro.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I really realized it.
The thing is that he's still a respectful bro.
He is. I think like what really made me realize he's a bro is when he was talking to Worf. And Worf was like, oh, like I have to control myself. Oh, he goes, Earth females, I must restrain myself too much. They're quite fragile, sir.
Oh yeah, what a flex, right?
And then and then Riker goes, Worf, and if anyone else had said that, I'd suspect he was bragging. And then Riker has like the biggest smile, and I was like, oh, okay, so I thought he was like Ken doll up until now. Oh no, he's a bro. Mm-hmm. He's a bro. Oh, Riker.
Are you okay with that though?
I mean, yes and no.
Okay,
because he seems like, as you said before, a respectful bro.
Yes.
So I can deal with a respectful bro.
I love how everyone's like, hell yeah, sex planet.
Yeah.
Except for Troy, she's like not into it.
Yeah. And then when she gets that hug when they beam down for the first time, she's like super awkward about it.
Yeah.
Honestly, same though. I don't want a bunch of rando strangers hugging me.
Yeah, especially that sensually.
Yeah, it was a little beyond cuddly. It was kind of like going up to someone and being like, I really like your ass. And then just like a weird grin.
Because the women, like, when they hug the dudes, they, like, rub their chest first and stuff. It's really awkward.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Revon really went to town on Riker's chest, and he had a mini Riker time.
Yeah. I love when she hugs Worf, and then Worf is like,
oh, yeah.
Nice planet.
Yes.
I'm not positive about it, but I think this might be the beginning of Worf's next couple of seasons of just one-liners.
Yeah.
Because he gets a lot of them coming up, and this one, while definitely not one of the most memorable ones, this one does stand out a bit. Okay, so did anyone notice what Wesley's reaction to being hugged was?
Oh, he was awkward as hell.
Yeah, he also got the coldest shoulder hug I saw in that entire episode.
Yeah, he got the friend hug.
Yeah.
I think because she recognized that he's a child. Yeah, she wasn't going to be like touching his chest because I think she recognized that's a child. That's a 15-year-old baby.
Yeah.
So like.
So they do have laws.
Yeah.
Yeah, or I think they just understand age.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah, because she says it's like, oh,
creepy.
you're a young one. I don't know your customs regarding love and shit like that.
Was she never a child? Did she just
No.
become an adult? She just went from baby to adult.
Well, okay, we didn't see anyone below the age of like 15 on this planet, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, I think she meant what like human customs are. She's like,
Yes.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
want to do anything like inappropriate, like in regards to you.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, so they do understand boundaries, which is appreciative, I guess.
Yeah, the dude
they-
says at the beginning that like no one does anything that's uncomfortable to them.
Yes, I appreciate that. I also do not, but I don't appreciate the amount of PDA. That's like everywhere. People are going to town on each other, and it's kind of weird. Like literally, so many people in that one hallway that they're in all the time. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, just straight up making out.
So regarding that, there isn't actually a lot of info on how the episode got to that, but the original writer changed his name on the episode. Like, this is a pen name that he uses because he didn't really want to be associated with it after all of the rewrites. His original idea was a planet that was wrought with terrorism and, like, totalitarian regimes. And it would go back and forth between, like, one group being the terrorists and the other group being the totalitarians. And the Federation was supposed to get there and be like, oh, these laws are extreme. This is really bad. You guys are being bad. Okay, let's help the other guys. And they help them, and the sides just switch, and it becomes the same thing from the opposite direction.
Interesting.
So that was the original idea they had for that. And they kept the totalitarian law part, but then added babes and butts everywhere instead.
It's like Baywatch utilitarianism.
I feel like it's a very Gene Roddenberry thing because he was very like sex obsessed during this time.
Yeah, it shows. The episode, we're in the 8th episode, and this show is horny. This show is so horny.
Oh yes.
I was honestly didn't see that coming. When we were like, we're gonna watch Star Trek Next Generation, I did not anticipate how horny this show was gonna be.
Great thing to have during the pandemic,
Yeah.
right? Horny as fuck show. Just making you feel bad about your life.
I mean, listen, it's horny and also lots of God stuff. So much God stuff.
I mean,
Horny and
for God.
Hand in hand.
Okay, I love that. Okay, so at the beginning of the episode, everyone's like, "Hell yeah, sex planet, let's go down there." And they're discussing it on the bridge, and then Picard's like, "Wesley, you go down and see what it's like for teens." And like,
Go
Wesley,
be our PG guide.
Yeah, Wesley is so excited, and Dr. Crusher weirdly also excited for him.
Maybe she wants him to finally get, some dick hoof.
But then when he's down there, he
Just randomly throwing dick hoof in there.
Yeah, man. That's my thing.
Then once he's down there, he is so awkward. I mean, understandably so. He's around all these adults being very horny with each other. And like at the beginning, like we said earlier, she asks like, "Oh, I don't know what your customs about love are with like younger people." And Wesley is just left there like on his own to figure out what to say because not a single adult helps him out.
Honestly, what stood out to me even more with Wesley was that back and forth that he had with the unnamed younger woman later on in the episode before they start throwing around the ball.
Oh yeah, and
like,
he basically tells her he's a virgin.
I remember I wrote down that entire conversation because it is just beauty. I want to do something too with you. What? It's something you that only you can teach me. Will you? Well, actually, there are some games I don't quite know yet. Like, Wesley, just come out and say it. I don't want to fuck right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's nothing wrong with that. No, he gets... Okay, this episode is just him getting put in unfairly awkward positions.
Do you remember when he has to describe to her what a bat is, and he's basically just making the shape of a penis?
That was so funny. Yeah, that was actually very funny.
It's like this long and this thick. It's like right after like having to tell her, no, I don't want to have sex.
I can imagine the director like giggling to himself the entire time this episode was being made.
Yeah, I felt it was like they don't cross that line, but I felt very uncomfortable because the only one that seems to respect that line is Wesley.
Yes.
Because he's when they arrive on the planet, like they're all being horny with each other, and then Wesley's just standing there like, I'm a child.
I actually wrote in my notes, like, you guys, I think I like Wesley. The more we see of him, from the first episode, it's like, I'm going to hate this kid. He's going to be, like, precocious and annoying. No, damn it. I like Wesley. He's been fun. And also, I think he was endearing in this episode because he was like, I don't know how to do any of that stuff. Yeah. I don't want to do this stuff. I'm uncomfortable. I'm awkward. Yeah, I also, he can do a cartwheel. That was fun.
Yeah.
I actually did not love Wesley in this episode. I found that he was there as a plot device, and they weren't really utilizing him that well because they put him in a really difficult predicament, and then had no idea how to explore that he's in that predicament with him. They looked at it from everyone else's perspective, and they just kind of like shut him away in the back for the rest of the episode.
I guess. I don't know. I just found him endearing that he just was so awkward in this.
I just want to comment on that. That's not a flaw with the character, though. That's, like, his usage.
Oh, no, yeah, that's definitely what I meant about it. That, like, I didn't find him, like, character-wise compelling in this episode because you really only get a couple of awkward moments, but you don't really get to explore any of it. And I don't know, that disappointed me. I like seeing Wesley exploration because generally it's been well done throughout the series, from what I recall. It's just that there's this reputation behind it of like Wesley's annoying because he's the wonderkind character.
Yeah, and from what I'm remembering, and we'll see as we go along, most of it is all this boy genius stuff being put onto him, and he's not really the perpetrator of it. He's usually not, oh, I'm the smartest, I'm the greatest, all that stuff.
No, he's just reacting to situations.
Yeah, it's everyone around him and the writers and stuff being like, this is the boy genius.
Oh, speaking of which, I have now started to, I've decided for future episodes, and I did it for this one, I'm going to take a tally of every time somebody refers to Wesley as the boy.
The boy?
Yeah.
So in this episode, 9 times someone referred to him as the boy. Sometimes they said the Wesley boy, but I decided that counted. Yeah, anytime Wesley was basically referred to as the boy or just boy, I counted.
Yeah, I definitely noticed it a lot more in this episode. I didn't realize it was 9 times. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm going to keep track for future episodes, so I almost said this will be boy corner. That's weird. No, I don't want to have a boy corner.
Yeah, that's
creepy.
It's a very unfortunate name.
How about Dick Hoof Corner?
No, that's not better.
Or is the Hoof the corner?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Sorry, Dory, what were you trying to say before?
Oh, no, I would just say that, so count at 9. But I also want to mention his outfit. The brown sweater.
Oh, yeah.
Fine, nothing special. Did you guys notice Wesley's pants?
Yes,
No.
I did.
They were red on the outside half and pink on the inside half.
Yeah.
What year is he living in? What are these pants? They are the most, like, 8-year-old little girl pants I've ever seen. But honestly, you know what? Wesley pulled them off. It was a look. It was a look.
Yeah, because it's weird because it's not like it's not like split down the middle. It's like 1/4 of the pants is red and the other 3/4 are pink.
I should also notice, I'm not calling girl because it's pink. I'm just saying, when I was a little kid, like, those are the kind of, like, pants I would go crazy over. Like, multiple toned pants like that. It's not a color thing. It's just, like, would a 15-year-old boy seriously wear paneled pants like that?
I mean, I'm fairly certain that Will Wheaton's thoughts on his wardrobe throughout TNG are mostly negative.
Yeah. I mean, that sweater does have one detail that's weird, where, like, the shoulder, like, sticks out more. Like, it's got, like a flap going down, like, the sides. It's weird.
Yeah, future fashion. That's how it works, right?
Yeah. I think that was, like, the era of, like, where color blocking was really big in, like, weird ways.
Yes.
So, they're like, okay, this is the future version of color blocking.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, they didn't really look too far ahead when it came to fashion. They were just like, what'll fashion be like a year from now?
Silver jumpsuits. God, civilian clothing in Star Trek is fucking awful.
Yes, and it never gets better.
Yeah, it does not.
I want to see more civilian clothes, because we really haven't seen much.
Oh, you will.
Like, we've seen Wesley, because, like, Crusher wears her everybody wears a uniform, because, like, we haven't been on that many planets where people wear, I was going to say human clothes, but that's not right. I don't mean human clothes.
Well, okay,
Just, like,
to be fair, all of the aliens that you've seen so far, save for, like, a handful of them, have basically just been humans.
Yeah, because they also make a point at the episode. It's like, oh, they say they're, like, remarkably like us, which is just an excuse to be like, we're not doing makeup on these people.
Yeah. That was a very original series thing, and they start to drop that as TNG goes on.
Yeah,
And they'll do, like, random forehead makeup on every alien, and it kind of becomes a stereotype of each alien just has some forehead makeup, and the end.
Yeah, it's like, oh, what kind of forehead bumps are we gonna do today?
Also, Dory, did you notice? This is the first time out of the first episode that we have an on-location shoot. It's not the crappy backdrop anymore.
Whoa. Oh, yeah, I guess when they're outside.
Yeah, so this was filmed at, I can't remember the name of the place, but it's actually something that gets reused a lot throughout Star Trek. Their main, like, hall, at least the exterior of it, gets used as Starfleet Academy quite a bit throughout the series. Yeah, they just film it from different angles, so it looks different.
Yeah, it was wild seeing them outside for once.
Yeah, you'll see it more times. It does come up more throughout the series.
Yeah. It's like how on the ship they only have the one hallway.
That's true.
Actually, is it just one hallway set, or do they have like a couple?
It's like 1.5.
Oh, okay.
Because the sick bay has its own hallway set, but it's like not much of one.
Basically, so you can just see out the door and stuff, I guess.
Yeah, the corridor for the crew quarters that they end up reusing a lot. That one I think is part of the largest hallway set that they have, and that's the one that's kind of like an L shape with a curve.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that goes down to a turbo lift on one end. Also, I think that one has the transporter set in it.
Oh, cool.
Oh, speaking of a transporter set, well, not the transporter set, but the transporter, I did enjoy at the very end of the episode when they were like, okay, we're taking Wesley and we're leaving, and they just are like, beam us up, and nothing happens.
Yep.
So they just stand there awkwardly, and then Picard has to monologue to then have, I say God in quotes, allow them to be beamed up. But I do love they all just like nobody moved.
Yeah, the episode doesn't really have a resolution, does it?
No, because then like the God thing disappears. Still not entirely sure what it is.
I'm also like very confused as to what this episode was trying to say. It's like,
yeah,
it seems to, like, at first I thought it was gonna be like a death penalty commentary, but it doesn't really get into that all that much.
No, it's very absolutist about that point. It's just, nope, we don't like the death penalty. Well, we do.
I mean,
the end.
I mean, kind of. It almost seems to be endorsing the death penalty, like, a little bit. Because Picard's like, oh, like, we no longer use the death penalty. We're beyond that. And then the dude's like sarcastically, like, I see. They're far more advanced than we are.
I mean, the point is that Picard is both trying to say that while humanity has gone beyond the death penalty, that doesn't mean that's the right way for everyone. And he does explicitly point that out. However, it is worth noting that the episode seems to go out of its way to not take a hard stance in either direction.
Yeah, which is weird for a death penalty episode.
Yeah, that's a little... Not a good decision, guys.
Yeah.
This was a lot, like, an interesting combination. You've got a lot of horniness, the death penalty, and God.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the Holy Trinity, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it's quite a cocktail.
This is truly a wild episode. Like, from the start,
Yeah.
I was like, because I do think it's really funny that the first shot you see on, is it Rubicon 3?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is just, like, people running with, like, asses out.
Yeah.
And every time they show establishing shots throughout this episode, it's just
more asses.
people running,
Yeah.
with their asses out. And I was like, what is supposed to be happening with this episode? Like, I never in a million years thought it would end up where it did.
Yeah.
I mean, it just went from like 0 to 1,000 in like 5 seconds.
I mean, that is kind of the point, I felt.
Do you know what it went from Worf like being bros with Riker to 5 seconds later him walking over to Yar and them being like, yeah, everybody fucking gets murdered if you like fall into a flower bush.
Yeah.
Wesley,
Also-
the boy.
Okay, at the beginning of the episode, Yar says that she looked up their laws and stuff. And then later on, Picard's like, oh, didn't you know about this, Tasha? And she's like, yeah, I looked up their laws, but they didn't say anything about punishments. And, like, maybe you should have looked into that.
Yeah, that's a little important.
You know, in my opinion, this is Tasha's fault. Because also, when Worf comes up to her and they're having that conversation, they explain, like, how their enforcement of laws works, which she apparently didn't know.
Oh, yeah. So what laws did she look up?
She didn't. She was just really excited and horny to go down to the planet. Her and Riker were bonding over their excitement.
Yeah, looking up the punishments is, like, pretty important. It's, like, I think littering is, like, technically illegal everywhere, but, like, in Singapore, you're gonna get in, like, actual trouble for littering. You're not gonna get in actual trouble in, like, Canada, for example.
No, you'll get a fine, maybe, if you're caught.
Yeah, so, like, it's pretty important to look up, like, how the laws are enforced and what the penalties are.
Yes, definitely.
So I think this is Tasha's fault, in my opinion.
You know what? Hot take, but I'm living for it.
Could you imagine, though, like, they did execute Wesley? And then, like, Tasha has to live with that? Oh my God, she's got enough trauma, and then, like, oh God, that would be just because she didn't feel like looking up the punishments.
And okay, so obviously Wesley shouldn't die because he fell into those flowers or whatever.
Yeah.
But he also didn't, at the time, he did not seem too concerned that he broke a thing.
Oh, yeah, he was like, I'm fine. Don't worry about it, guys.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't even say he was sorry until there were literally police on his ass.
Yeah, he did eventually apologize.
Oh, the mediators. Those mediators were hilarious. When one of them gets knocked down, he just lies on the grass. I was like, why is he not getting up? He just lay there. He just was like lounging on the ground. And when Riker and everybody showed up, those guys were also interesting outfits. There's just like a lot of nipples in this episode.
Yeah, a lot.
Well, there are a lot of nipples, but they're all male nipples.
Yes.
All the women's nipples are cleverly hidden.
Yes, I will say I appreciate the equal opportunity rompers, if you will.
Equal opportunity dick moves.
Yeah, both.
Yes.
Yes, the women and the men are equally scantily clad, which is nice.
Yes.
Yes. That's what the right way to describe
And everyone
Yeah.
seems to be happy with that.
Yeah, and I also appreciate that, like, okay, obviously they're all actors, they all have, like, nice and decent bodies, but it's not all six-packs and stuff, so I did appreciate that.
Yeah, like Lyatar was like not built.
Yeah, it's like borderline dad bod,
Yeah.
which I appreciated. I mean, still no one larger, but, you know, it's something.
It's the late 80s. How far can they go in being
Not very far.
inclusive? So
I do like the sort of, like, godlike bubble thing is very TOS.
Oh, yes, it is. This whole episode kind of carries that vibe with it. It's still, the show has not come onto its own yet.
Yeah, it super does. The only reason, like, the only difference is they couldn't have got away with this much horniness in the 60s.
Well, I don't know. There was a lot of horniness in the 60s, depending on the episode.
Oh, yeah, true. But I don't think it was, like, they wouldn't have been able to get away with this.
Yeah, that's true. Remember when Kirk was holding a giant rock penis?
Oh, when was...
What?
When was that again?
There's screenshots of it that go around the internet. It's that one where he's on, like, or in, like, a cave full of, like, androids, and one of them is some woman with, like, more side boob than anything else.
I don't remember that.
It's a weird episode. They're trying to make, like, an android version of Kirk in it.
Okay.
It's not a bad episode, it's just weird. Also, I think it has Lurch in it.
Like from the Addams Family?
Yeah, playing, like, an android.
What was it? Yeah, it's been a while since I've watched TOS, so I don't really remember.
That's fair.
Yeah. Does not surprise me, though.
On that note, I can't wait for Riker to stop sounding pseudo-intellectual with all of the lines that he delivers.
Yeah.
Because it's getting kind of irritating. Because he'll say something that is like, okay, I know how somebody would say this, and I know how Jonathan Frakes would sound saying this, but the way that he's saying it, he added an extra word or two, or used some sort of vocabulary that really doesn't suit his... Like, it sounds like he's delivering a line at so many points.
Yeah, it's weird.
Quite a healthy fantasy life, wouldn't you say? Riker wouldn't say, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's very much, like, written.
Yes.
You know, that's not how a person talks. Even the stupid, boring future people.
Do you guys remember when the Edo Guardian thing first appears in the outside the Enterprise, and Picard orders Geordi to go to a window and look at it? And I'm just like, well, let me get this straight. Geordi's visor thing is more advanced than the newest and most advanced chip in the Federation? What the fuck, guys?
I do like... It doesn't also seem like it's closer. He just goes to a different room to look out the window. Like,
he does.
Yeah.
I don't think it was necessarily even closer. I think the bridge looked like it was closer.
Well, yeah, it's not about being closer, because Picard says, like, go out and have a real look. Because the view screen isn't a window. It's like they have, I guess, like, cameras outside the ship, and then it shows you what's on it, yeah.
Oh. I kind of thought it was like a window, but they could, like, project stuff on it.
It's supposed to be, or rather it's shown often as a 3-dimensional window. So think of it like there's a holodeck there that's projecting whatever they're looking at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I never knew that.
Well, that's why whenever they show the screen from different angles, like they'll show Picard looking at the screen like from his side, the person on the screen will be looking at Picard rather than flatly against the audience.
Okay, so it's like a 3D TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Side note, I do appreciate that the aliens aren't named after their planet.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's like the Edo from Rubicon 3 instead of like the Edo from Planet
Edo.
EdoCon 3.
Yeah, EdoCon 3.
Ah, the Rubiconians.
Yeah, exactly.
From Rubicon Prime. Yeah, you'll notice a lot of that as we go on, Dory. Star Trek can get lazy with its people naming.
Yeah, and how cultures work.
You mean in that cultures are all just one culture?
Yeah.
Much like this one?
Yeah, every planet is all one culture. Because that's how it works. Oh, yeah, at the beginning of the episode, I'm like, oh, this seems like a nice planet. And then they're like, we jog everywhere. And I'm like, fuck this planet.
I wrote, in my notes, I wrote hard pass.
Yeah.
That would be my deterrent. If somebody's like, hey, you want to go to Rubicon 3? I would be like, how do they... It never would occur to me to ask, how do they get around?
Yeah.
But they're like, yeah, they run. I'd be like, oh. No, I think I'll skip this one. I'll stay on the ship. I'm good.
Do we have to run? Can't we just slide?
Honestly, the jogging is worse than the death penalty thing.
I mean, at the very least, it explains why everyone's in such good shape.
Yeah, that's true.
That is true.
They just live on cardio.
By the way, when they get to the council chambers or whatever, and it's like, oh, here's some children for you to play with, Wesley. That one dude is not a child. He is like, he has so
Yeah.
much body hair. And I'm like, that is not a 15-year-old.
That's a 25-year-old.
Yeah.
That sounds like television to me.
Yeah.
A 25-year-old playing a teenager.
Yeah. Frankly, the other two people didn't look like children either. They looked
No,
like...
not really. Supposedly, the woman that he's interacting with most of the time, she actually was like a teen.
Oh.
She did look young. But the two guys were like, those were not youths,
Yeah.
if you will.
Definitely not. Oh, I loved the bit of Data in sickbay with Picard.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
yes. That was a good bit of a Data moment.
When he's like, because the God bubble thing, it like interacts with Data and knocks him out for a while to do some like information exchange,
Yeah.
which they say in such a weird way in this episode. To me, it just seemed like they were ascribing a lot more meaning to it. It's like some information exchange.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, and then like Data's giving Picard the info, and then
Picard just fully wants him to shut up.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Picard's like, "Don't babble."
Yeah, I have like the whole bit. He goes, Data goes, it was probably unwise of us to attempt to place a human colony in this area. Of course, there are 3,004 other planets in this star cluster in which we could have colonized. Then he goes, the largest and closest, and then Picard interrupts him and goes, Data, don't babble. And then Data goes, babble, sir?
Yeah,
I wasn't babbling, and then immediately begins babbling again.
yeah.
I just wrote, Picard is over this conversation.
Yeah, and Data's like, perhaps you don't appreciate how I organize my, like, the information I have to pass on. And then Picard's like, well, organize it into brief answers to my questions. Oh, but Data then gets back at him because Picard answers a question and Data gives, like, a one-word answer. He's like, you can elaborate a little.
Data was like real mouthy.
Yeah.
To people this episode, because then when Dr. Crusher was getting all upset because they were kind of not doing a lot with Wesley, Data goes, most interesting, sir, the emotion of motherhood as compared to all others felt by humans. And then Dr. Crusher just screams, shut up, and leaves.
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed in what they did with Dr. Crusher in this episode. Because, like, we haven't had a lot of good exploration of her as a character yet. And now we get some, and her character is emotional mother. And it's like, okay, she has every reason to be an emotional mother, but man, couldn't you have guys done something else before you went to this story?
It also sort of felt like nobody took her sort of like her seriously.
Yeah.
Like they're saying her son is about to be executed. She keeps being like, what are we doing about this? What are we doing about this? And everybody keeps sort of like brushing her off. Like even like earlier on the episode, when they find out that Wesley is detained, Dr. Crusher is like trying to talk to Picard and he goes, in a moment, doctor. And then she goes, in a moment? And like she looks like she's ready to set him on fire.
I mean, justifiably so.
Yeah, it's her freaking child. And everybody just sort of keeps brushing off her urgency, and it's frustrating because she has every right to be as upset as she does.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of a dick thing. And she's like, my son's about to die and you're telling me to wait a bit? Like, can you at least assure me that he's safe for the moment? Like, say something. Don't just be like, hold your horses. Don't be so in a rush about your son.
Wow, calm down.
Yeah, don't be so in a rush about your son being executed or whatever.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's just your son's life ending.
I know Picard probably only... he's frustrated that he has to pretend to care Wesley's gonna die.
Well, they say, like, because Dr. Crusher goes, if he was your son, you'd be as frightened. And then Picard's like, but I am. And I actually said out loud, I was like, bullshit.
Yeah.
you hate Wesley. Don't even. But yeah, it was kind of frustrating that, yeah, they just, I suppose on like a lot of shows, especially in the 80s, like motherhood was sort of, they just had an idea like this is motherhood and that's it. And like motherhood is overbearing, being like, where's my child? I need to take care of my child. Like whole life revolves around their child. So then like when something happens, when they have a right to be like, I think it's normal like overbearance, but like in regular circumstances. But when a mother is just concerned over something that is high stakes, like this current situation of her child possibly being executed, it's like, calm down, Mom.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's like they don't really
frustrating.
take it seriously. It's like, oh, hysterical mother.
Yeah, I also, I don't know if it's maybe just how they've written the characters so far or the directing or acting, but it doesn't necessarily like feel like people care about each other yet, like the characters.
Yeah.
No, it definitely doesn't.
Because even when when Yar was like kidnapped, like it seemed like people cared, but also like not a ton. Like it was sort of weird. Like I find some of the characters you sort of feel like give a shit, but also some don't.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just because it's early and we haven't seen as much like character interactions.
It all still feels academic. Like it's not really
Yes.
they don't care. It's like
That's a very good description of it. Because at this point in the series, I know that that Roddenberry's really hard on his, like, oh, humanity's overcome all of this, like, you know, drama between ourselves. You know, like, we have great control over ourselves now. We don't have these, like, petty squabbles with each other anymore. And he was trying to push that in the writer's room. And the writers didn't really know how to do that, because how do you write character drama when none of the characters have problems with each other?
Yeah. I mean, plus also, that's kind of ridiculous to think that in the future people wouldn't have issues with each other.
personal conflicts. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's what human beings are. Human beings are petty. We're assholes. We're like, there's so much jealousy and just stupid stuff. Like, I mean, there's no way that people can become evolved enough to like not care about. There's always got to be something that like.
I mean, I don't dislike
like-
the ideal. I think it's a very positive thing to look up to humanity as being capable of, like, all of these problems that we have each other now. We can rise above them to, you know, for the betterment of all of us as, like, you know, one purpose, that sort of thing. But
that's boring.
the issue with it is it doesn't
Yeah.
make for good television.
It doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is like, the thing is, I feel like if we're to get to that ideal, it's not because we stop feeling jealousy, like that we stop, you know, feeling these negative emotions. It's that humanity will, on the whole, have healthy coping mechanisms for these.
It's only if everybody decides to go to therapy.
Yeah, exactly.
The next few hundred years, everybody goes to therapy and we all learn healthy coping mechanisms. And I mean, I think it's a really nice idea. I don't think it'll ever happen. We know from what's happening right now with Corona that people won't wear masks because they think Corona is a hoax and that their rights are being infringed on for wearing a mask. The fact that that's a thing, that people are refusing to understand that we're in a pandemic, or not understand, to accept that we're in a pandemic or choosing to ignore, that's what makes me think that his concept is bullshit. There will always be people that pull this shit. We will never live in a society where we can be beyond those sort of interpersonal issues. Mm-hmm. Because also, how fucking boring. How utterly boring of a world we'd be in.
Yeah. And the thing is like, I don't think it's bad to want that, to like imagine a world where we can be done with that. But
yeah, I'm not opposed to the idea. I just don't think it's realistic.
Yeah, it's a pure utopia.
But I think there's a realistic way to think about that and an unrealistic way to think about that. I think unrealistic is to expect that we won't feel these emotions anymore and that there's no personal conflict ever. In my personal opinion, a realistic way to think about it is that, you know, the majority of people, the vast majority of people will eventually have healthy ways to deal with these emotions and healthier ways to deal with interpersonal conflict.
Yeah, I just,
like that.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's great. I do think that's a poor choice for TV, though.
Definitely.
Because, like,
it's super boring.
The whole point is to have some drama. And if every single episode is not going to be... I mean, I know this is, like, episodic. It's not... but I think I've said in another episode that, like, I like character development. I like the like, that's what makes a show interesting, is the interpersonal drama. I mean, not... Because how else are people supposed to grow as characters? How do you invest in them if all they do is just like, for example, right now we're 8 episodes in. I think I have a better idea of who Picard is. I think also this episode you got to see him like he was sort of joking with Data like closer to the end. But like everybody else, I sort of don't really have an understanding of. You know what? That's not true. I think I understand Geordi a little bit more. And I don't know if it's just like the acting or the writing or character. I don't know. But Geordi feels like a person. But everybody else sort of feels still like a character because like nothing is happening between them. And I think that's also why I like the Dr. Crusher and Picard thing, is because you can feel tension between them.
Yeah, there's a dynamic there at work.
There's chemistry, there's tension, which is what it's interesting, but there's nothing between other people. And how am I supposed to root or get excited for people to do shit if there's no kind of interpersonal conflict?
Yeah.
Because that's what makes shit interesting. And I only hope that it doesn't need to be like every single episode some kind of issue, but I would like to hope that in a show that went on for, I think, 7 seasons, that there's something that people do develop, like, you know, interpersonal relationships and conflict or something, because otherwise, if we're just every episode is just going to planet to have some kind of like conflict with the people that live there in a situation of who's right and who's wrong, or like this is our civilization versus your civilization, and your crazy ideals are like crazy. Man, I'm in for a really, really long time of doing this.
That's okay,
Like,
Dory.
this
There's
is-
only 6 and
Oh,
2/3
God.
of a season to go.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Knowing what I know about where the series goes and what it becomes, I definitely think that right now it's the writing and possibly some of the directing that's at fault. Because
Okay.
you definitely get more of that. Like, you definitely... And there's a lot more episodes where the philosophical questions and stuff like that are a lot more interesting and a lot less, like, they take less of, like, a black and white stance that they take.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's a misunderstanding that interpersonal conflict or interpersonal tension or whatever has to be overly negative.
Yeah.
Because
for sure.
Yeah, because like you said, you're really invested and interested in what's going on between Dr. Crusher and Captain Picard, and that's not
It's the only tension we've seen.
And that's not an overly negative thing. That's
Yeah.
just like, oh, there's some interesting feelings happening between these two, you know? So yeah, it doesn't have to be about like really toxic jealousy and affairs and all that stuff and like
just like a friendship, like some like
Yeah.
I don't know, just because right now like most of the relationships seem so like superficial or just like from the job, which is not exactly the best way to like, you know, keep a show going, is have everything superficial.
Yeah.
But if like I wouldn't count it as a spoiler, but like if you're saying that these like they do start to you know, have some more character moments, then like that would be cool.
The writing does change in the future.
Yeah, the writing
Okay,
definitely
that's good.
does change. I mean, there's a reason that this show became so popular.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's good. That's definitely reassuring. It's like I don't dislike it. I like things that are a lot more character. Like I love a good story. Love a good plot. But if characters aren't learning shit, then like what are we watching?
Yeah. So season 1 is definitely difficult to get through in that regard, which is why everyone basically agrees that season 1 is trash. In season 2, you start to see glimpses of where the show is going and will go. And then season 3 is like when it basically becomes what people know the show as.
Oh, nice. Okay.
However, regarding all of that, there is something that one of the showrunners and somebody who stayed with Star Trek until his death wrote about the series, and there is a particular writing style that was kind of the hand forced by the writers, because this was Gene Roddenberry's ideal. It's something that they all came to know as the Roddenberry bubble. And the Roddenberry bubble is, like I described to you, humans have evolved beyond having these kind of like overt personal grudges against one another. And that's something that doesn't go away in Star Trek, and it takes them a while before the writers find ways to write their way around it. And they managed to do it very successfully. The only problem with it is once they figured out how to do it, they stuck to that for the rest of Star Trek's run until the last series, Enterprise, was canceled in 2005, and it got very stale. But
Yeah.
within that Roddenberry bubble, they do some really interesting stuff that we're going to get to.
Oh, yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
you'll like what's coming up.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, like I was saying, like, that the interpersonal drama doesn't have to be overtly negative.
Yes.
And I think, like, I kind of like the idea of trying to write in a way where it's interesting, but it doesn't revolve around people being mad at each other for very dumb reasons.
Yes.
Which is like, I mean, that happens in real life, but it's nice to see, something that, to ask deeper questions, to like go beyond just the surface of like, I'm mad and I'm not going to talk to you about it.
To ask about God things.
Yeah. Because so I love sitcoms, but the annoying thing is always like, this problem would be solved if you guys just fucking talked.
Yes.
Yep.
That drives me freaking crazy. It's like one of those, those conversations that are in like every TV show where they're like, I know. And they're like, what? You know? How do you know? And it's obviously they're talking about two completely different things. And one of them ends up telling somebody the exact wrong thing or the thing that's supposed to be a secret. And then everything goes terribly wrong after that. Because like conflict is not, like in a TV show, conflict is good. Because how else are we supposed to know, like how else are we supposed to say any kind of development, whether there be in like a story or in between with people's relationships? Like how do you grow if there's nothing to, like, for lack of a better thing, like inside it, like for it to be kicked in the ass for stuff to happen? I didn't articulate that particularly well, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's like you have to, if you're really comfortable, there's not a really lot of incentive or reason for you to move beyond where you are.
Yeah, especially these are 45-minute long episodes. To have like no conflict and it just being like a, like a plot-based story, that should be 20 minutes. Because we do not need 45 minutes of just like stuff just happening around these people.
And the more I'm realizing it, because before the episode, before we started recording, I was just like, oh, I think we're going to have a lot to talk about this episode. And I'm realizing that there's not actually a lot to this episode.
No, there isn't.
No, a lot of it's really kind of confusing and just like kind of open-ended.
Yeah. We did still have a lot to talk about, but like not really about what happens in the episode. First of all the half-naked people is very distracting. And then, it's just a lot of this, like, they're still trying to shake off all the TOS silliness and not quite getting there. And Gene Roddenberry's really wooden ideal. And it's like Captain Kirk, like in the original series, like it was still like people weren't like, didn't hold grudges, and there wasn't a lot of like interpersonal like negative conflict, but they still had personalities. You still really liked the characters. You still like learned things about them, and they still had... Actually, wait, no, I'm totally lying, because that's the whole relationship between Bones and Spock is antagonistic.
Yeah, I was about to say, Bones is straight up racist.
Yeah, he is.
What? What?
He's like, you green-blooded hobgoblin. And it's like,
my
Jesus
God.
Christ,
Yeah.
man.
Doesn't he also call Spock like a fucking half-breed? Like, it's really bad.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah. Damn it, 1960s.
Oh my God, what the fuck?
Yeah, I just realized that I was like kind of talking out my ass.
But it did make me realize that majority of the characters do not have personalities on this show.
Not
Troy has nothing. Yar has nothing. I only just realized that Riker is a bro, not a Ken doll. I mean, he's still a Ken doll, but he's still a bro.
Worf has one-liners.
We know Worf had an interesting childhood pet, but we don't know much about anybody's personality.
Yar's personality is that she grew up on the rape planet.
Yeah, basically.
That's upsetting.
I mean, to be honest, Worf gets better, but
That's good.
in
Not
TNG,
much.
he's never all that interesting to me. Because his personality he is a stick in the mud. It does, like...
Accurate. Very accurate.
Yeah, eventually when everyone else develops their personality, or, like, gets any, he is a very funny contrast to everyone else.
Aw.
So,
Worf.
since we're on the topic of the fact that not very much happened in this episode, Dory, did you have any favorite moments about things that didn't happen in this episode?
Yeah, okay. So I kind of have like two favorite lines at the beginning of the episode when they're saying, oh, they're going down to the planet, and then Geordi goes, they make love at the drop of a hat, and then Yar goes, any hat. And then Picard makes like 6 facial expressions in a row. And I just was like, wow, that isn't a reaction to this.
I mean, that
change
whole
there.
opening scene is very awkward to begin with, but that line was quite funny.
I enjoyed how excited everybody was to be going on like a field trip.
Yeah.
Sexy field trip.
Yeah. I also, near the end, Picard says, I don't know, this is the most bizarrely, like, written line I've ever heard. But Picard goes, let's have more talk, Data. And I was like, what the hell kind of line is that? Let's have more talk?
Yeah, that's a
Let's
really
be
weird...
bud, Data. Let's friend.
What?
That's a really weird way to put it.
Yeah, but I wrote it down. I just thought that was really weird. Yeah, not like... I did also like Picard's monologue at the end. You know what's weird? This whole episode, I was watching Patrick Stewart's face, and I was like, why is his face so, like, why am I obsessed with his face this episode? I was like, he is so attractive right now.
Yeah, I think they do a lot of close-ups on him this episode.
Yeah,
I
they
don't know.
do.
Like, I think he's, like, good looking. I think he's very handsome.
Oh,
Like,
definitely.
from the start. But this episode in particular, I was like, what is his face doing to me right now?
Patrick Stewart's just like that.
Well, you're finally getting different lighting from him because he's not on the bridge.
I enjoyed him this episode, even though he was kind of a dick to Crusher. But yeah, not a ton of favorite parts. I mean, it was like funny, but like all the Edo people. But
It was funny, but not ha-ha funny.
yeah, I mean, I did enjoy Wesley's cartwheels and them 4 people running in a line throwing a ball as if that's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's their favorite game.
Yeah, you know, everybody's favorite pastime. Running in a line, throwing a ball.
There's only one thing that we haven't gotten to that I just really liked is when that weird like interdimensional ship thing that's like half there and half not, when they first encounter that and they're trying to figure out what it is, and then it sends the bubble over or whatever, because at first when they're scanning it they're like, I don't know, like there's something is there, like I don't know whatever it is, and then
Picard's weird line.
yeah, I absolutely love it. There's like a red alert going off, and it's like intruder alert, this bubble's invading, and it's like I don't know, something's entered the ship, and he goes, why has everything become a something or a whatever?
Oh yeah.
I just really liked that line. It was funny.
Oh, I just remembered. There's one more line that I don't know if favorite though, but I do think it's kind of profound. Troy goes, sharing an orbit with God is no small experience. It's like, wow, that's deep.
I mean, accurate. They could have gone so much further with the God stuff too, but they didn't. I really loved when Data referred to it as a God thing.
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting choice. But the line that got me so hard in this, and I know it wasn't funny.
The way you put that was really really unfortunate.
Yeah.
What?
Because you said
You say the line that got me so hard.
Well, I mean, both. Heyo. So when Wesley, after he falls on the flower bed, and he gets, he stands up, and they're dealing with the whole thing, and the mediators are questioning him, and he's like, You admit your crime? And he says, I'm from Starfleet. We don't lie. And he just says it with like the most straight, like serious face, like his whole being has just been challenged by even the thought that he could possibly have been not telling the truth. And I don't know why, that just, his reaction was really awkward sounding, and I found it very amusing.
Oh, that reminds me of another line that I really loved, except that nothing really came of it.
Oh.
Is like near the end when they're about to take Wesley away, they're discussing with the Ito, like, he's like, I have to take Wesley, like, and I know that, like, your god may harm my ship for it, but I can't allow, like, you to execute him. And then Wesley's like, so you mean if you take me, like, the whole ship could die, like, everyone on board could die? And then Picard's like, excuse me, but you're not involved in this decision? And then Wesley, like, hardens up and stands his ground, and he's like, I'm sorry, sir, but it seems that I am. And I'm like, good for you, Wesley. Except that Picard...
They just ignore him after that.
Yeah, after that happens, like, because I thought Wesley was gonna say, like, because I didn't remember this episode very well, but I thought Wesley was going to be like, no, I'll sacrifice myself so that the ship doesn't, no harm comes to the ship and stuff. But no, Picard's just like, okay, we're taking you home, and he's like, awesome. So that would have been an interesting twist to the episode, I think, is if Wesley was like, no, I'll do it so that no one else gets hurt and that kind of shit.
This episode had a lot of potential that it didn't do a lot with.
Yeah, it's like Voyager.
Hey-o.
Sorry for the shade.
So, Dory.
Yes.
Moving onwards, the next episode that we're approaching is The Battle. And I'd like to know what you think about this episode before we go into it. I'm going to give you a little bit of a tidbit, though. So the episode is Picard meets a ghost from his past.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I wish it was just Picard meets a ghost.
I mean, a little bit, but...
Okay, so my guess is it's going to be a French person speaking in an English
racist.
accent. Well, from his past, because he's quote-unquote French. Okay, maybe it's a childhood friend.
Remember, the episode is called The Battle.
They're the reason that a battle is started, or they're on the other end of the battle.
Oh, shit.
But I really hope that the other person is quote-unquote French.
Well, we'll find out if you're right.
Oh, man. I hope so.
So you'll have to join us next time on Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Goodbye.